Hi, this is Anne from Music Discoveries, where I share music and tips that are tailored to support you on your harp journey. Today I'd like to talk about improvising. We're going to take a look at two different pieces of music to use as a springboard, and then we'll explore some different tips and ideas for how you can use those to improvise successfully. So if you think that improvising is scary or hard, then this is just the video for you. Let's get started. Do you like to learn and play your music from a score? I do. I'm a visual learner, so that's definitely my preferred way of learning music and enjoying it. In fact, for a very long time, I did not identify myself as somebody who could improvise, probably because I thought that I should be able to improvise music that was as complex as the piano music I was playing. But when I studied harp therapy, I realized that I can improvise, and so can you. But one of the hurdles that I needed to get over was giving myself permission to simplify. I also learned that it was about gathering lots of tricks and patterns that I could learn to mix and match. And then by doing it an awful lot, my ears started to anticipate what it wanted to hear, and my fingers learned where to go to get those sounds. It just takes a lot of practice and experience. It's very much like an artist who learns by experimenting and by doing it over and over again that a particular shade of yellow and a particular shade of blue will create the green that they see in their imagination. Sometimes you'll hear people say things like, there are no wrong notes, or just play anything you want. Well, for a visual learner, that's actually quite paralyzing. It's far less intimidating to have some set parameters. So we're going to start with two different pieces, and I'll share some ideas and tricks for how you can successfully improvise using those pieces as your jumping off point. Now let's begin with a harp therapy piece that I composed called Drifting. You can get the link up in the cards and down in the video description below. Now I wrote this piece with improvising in mind. Of course you can play the piece from beginning to end, but I also planted some seeds so that you could take it further if you would like to and use it to explore improvising and creativity. So let me show you how. Now, tip number 1, notice that I clearly marked the 4 main sections in the piece. And this gives you the opportunity to play those sections in any order. Get used to the idea that you don't have to start at the beginning and end at the end. You can mix and match these sections in any order that you like. So I think that gives you a great sense of freedom. Then tip number 2, now that you're changing up the order of the sections, maybe you might think, hey, can I repeat a section? Well, of course you can repeat a section, but instead of playing it twice exactly the same, how about the second time you change it up in some way? So my recommendation for you, if you're just getting started, is why don't you play the second time an octave higher? Changing the range is a really great way to change the texture and the character of the piece. So let's move on to tip number 3. You'll notice in the score I've included all of the chord symbols, and the chord progression is very regular. So your ear is going to learn to anticipate the sound of the chords, and that's going to give you a sense of knowing where you want to go. Now, I would recommend starting with a blend of reading some of my notes from the page and then adding some of your own. All you need to do is make sure that you keep counting. Keep it in 6/8 time, and also try to be mindful of the chord that you're using so that you're using chord tones as safe choices. So I'm going to play a sample. I'll play section 1 from Drifting. First I'll play it through as written, and then I'm going to repeat it. But I'm going to move it up an octave, so that's tip number 2, and I'll use a blend of some of the notes on the page with some of my own improvised notes. So let's see how this turns out. pieces from the score. Now I'll repeat up an octave. So try it out. You have my permission to use this piece as a template for your own improvising and creative work. Now, if you ever want to have a little extra feedback or some extra coaching on improvising, don't hesitate to contact me for an online coaching session. Now let's move on to the second piece. Many of you have my arrangement of Amazing Grace. The link is up in the cards and down in the description below. So our next improvising trick is a little bit more advanced, but it's very, very useful. And what you're going to do is keep the rhythm of the words of Amazing Grace while changing the melody. And this is very handy because it's an interesting way to disguise Amazing Grace or even lengthen it if you're looking for a longer arrangement. As a harp therapist playing in long-term care facilities, I know that some patients really love Amazing Grace and other people have some negative memories attached to it. So I'll often disguise the piece so it doesn't read as Amazing Grace, but it still has the comforting chord progression and the comforting rhythm that people love. So let's take a look at what the right hand might need to do to change the melody while keeping the rhythm exactly the same. So the original melody is like this. So instead of going from G up to C, maybe I'll change it and do an E down to C. And then instead of the triplet stepping down, maybe I'll make a triplet step up. So maybe it becomes this. You get the idea? So that's a really interesting improvising trick to explore. It takes a little bit more practice, I think, to get the hang of that. You need to sing the words in your head and be open to a brand new melody while thinking quite intellectually about the chords that you're using so that you're making smart choices about the notes and chord tones. If you're interested in a little extra guidance and support with improvising, or even if you would like to share your success and progress from this video, please don't hesitate to contact me for an online coaching session. The link to the Music Discovery Studio is down in the description below, and I would love to talk with you. I'd love to meet with you online. So I hope you all have a great time improvising and exploring your creativity, and I will see you in the next video.